Hi, I'm Mark Harrison, and you may know me from my various music instruction books or from my work here in Los Angeles at the Grove School of Music. In this lesson, we're going to focus on gospel piano, and I'll be referencing some of the concepts from my Gospel Keyboard Styles book. And you may know that this book is actually an excerpt from a larger book we have called the Pop Piano Book. Basically, our publishers decided to take the gospel material out of the Pop Piano Book and make a smaller, separate book out of it. So anyway, the gospel content is exactly the same between these two books. One of the very important harmonic devices in gospel is the use of mixolydian modes. Okay, and you might remember, if you have my blues piano book, or if you've seen my video lesson on the blues, that mixolydian modes are of course a vital concept in the blues also. That's not surprising really, as the gospel and the blues are very related. So let's briefly review some mixolydian mode concepts and then see how some of the voicings might be used in gospel music. So, just to recap, a mixolydian mode occurs when we take a major scale and reposition it to start on its fifth degree. For example, these are the notes in a C major scale starting on C. All the white keys, of course, starting from C, ending on C. If I then begin that scale on the note G and still play all the white keys, and we get a G mixolydian mode. Okay. Now, if I were to play all of the triads in the key of C, starting with C major, then going to D minor, and so forth, if I was to reposition those triads starting on G, and with the note G in the bass, and again sticking to all the white keys, we would sound like this. Okay, so basically what I did is I took the diatonic triads in the key of C major, but started them on a G major triad and repositioned all of them over the note G in the bass. Now that's technically creating G mixolydian triads right there. However, I think you can hear that just playing the upper triads in root position didn't sound particularly interesting. But if we reposition those triads to be in second inversion, then it starts to sound a little more stylistic. Okay, so let's look at those triads a little more closely. Again, in the series I played G major, A minor, B diminished, C major, D minor, E minor, F major, and G. When we move between those over the root of G in the bass, they all collectively imply a G7 chord. And this is the context in which they're used in the gospel styles and blues styles. Okay. For example, we might take the B diminished triad out of that series, again in second inversion, and place it over G. That, of course, fully defines a G7 chord. Then we might move one further triad up in the series to a C triad, and back to B diminished again. I think you can recognize that that's an element in many gospel and blues styles. For example, in a 3/4 time signature gospel style, we might use those triads in this kind of way. Also, here's another rhythmic variation of the same idea. Notice in the left hand I'm supporting the right hand triads with the use of this root 5 and root 6 sound, G up to D, G up to E respectively. Now let's expand our triad choice a little bit. As well as taking the B diminished and C triads, I might go one triad further and take D minor out of the mixolydian series and use all three of them. That might again be used in a 3/4 comping groove, something like this. Okay. Now let's switch gears and look at a C7 chord. Again, over the root of C, we might play a C mixolydian mode, which of course is an F major scale repositioned to start on C. We might also play diatonic triads from an F major scale, again over the root of C, and again in second inversion. These would be C mixolydian triads, in other words. Just to recap, the upper triads there individually are C major, D minor, E diminished, F major, G minor, A minor, B flat major, back to C. Again, we might cherry pick some of our favorites in the middle of the series there, like E diminished over C, which fully defines the C7, F over C to G minor over C and back again. So that 3/4 gospel pattern on a C7 might be something like this now. Okay, so let's try and put these ideas together now on a simple chord progression in G, where we might go from the 1 to the 4, back to the 1, and down to the 5. Okay, and let's assume for this example that all of the chords will be dominant chords, which is typical in basic gospel as well as blues styles. And I'm going to improvise a comping treatment using Mixolydian triads with respect to each of the dominant chords, again in a 3/4 gospel rhythmic framework. Let's see how that goes. Now, when I went to the D7 in that progression, I was a little bit lower on the keyboard, but again I was using triads from a D Mixolydian mode, in particular F sharp diminished, G major, and A minor, which are all diatonic to G major, therefore belong to D Mixolydian. Here's one other little trick we'll get into. Within these Mixolydian triads, we might use grace notes a half step below the middle note of the triad to give a bluesy effect. For example, on the B diminished triad over G, I might slide my second finger off the A sharp into the B, into the middle of that triad, like this. Similarly, on the D minor triad in that series, I might slide off of the C sharp into the D in the middle of that triad. Again, for the bluesy effect that might create. Technically, with respect to the overall G7 chord, that would be a flat 3 to 3 and a flat 5 to 5 respectively. So here's one of my basic patterns on the G7 earlier. Now with those grace notes applied. You hear that, the flat 3 to 3 and the flat 5 to 5 respectively. So I'm finally going to try and improvise that similar comping pattern again over the chord progression I did earlier, now putting some grace notes in the middle of some of these Mixolydian triads. Let's give that a shot. Here we go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that little insight into the Gospel Keyboard Styles book. For further information on all of our books and CD products, please check out our website at harrisonmusic.com. You can also find information there about my online private lessons, and this is the view of me that you would see if you're taking lessons with me. So if you'd like further information on that, again, please check our website. And good luck with your gospel piano playing. Bye for now.